What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 3 of Training Tuesdays. Today's episode is brought to us by our friends, Spectrum Healthcare Partners. So thank you to Spectrum for their support of the Dempsey Challenge and also of Training Tuesdays with episode 3 here today. I'm excited to be back. It feels wild to me that it's another Tuesday. Time seems to be flying. The summer's flying by here. As we move closer to this year's Dempsey Challenge, it feels like it's now just around the corner. I know many of you started your training plan. You're moving, you're in action. And today we're going to bring in Dr. Sizzle, the world famous Dr. Sizzle, to talk about all things bike. We're going to talk about conditioning, core stretch, core work. We're going to talk about our stretching. We're going to talk about recovering. We're going to reiterate some of the points we made last week. And we're also going to talk on something that's super important and often neglected, which is bike safety and maintenance. We're going to open up to questions towards the end of the show as well, because I'm sure there's lots. If you're new to cycling or getting back into cycling, that is unclear and unsure. And we want this to be a safe space for you all to throw those questions our way. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in the world famous Dr. Sizzle. Welcome to the show, world famous. How are you?
Oh, so good. How are you?
I'm amazing. I mention it, but it's hard to believe it's been a week since the last Training Tuesdays.
I know. What did you fit into this week? Did you get any milestones? Anything?
Yeah, ticking them off. I got a couple of really good runs in. I did a great ride on Sunday. It was actually a virtual event. So last year I went to Steamboat Springs in Colorado, and I did a gravel race there. It was this Steamboat gravel event. So this past weekend was their virtual event. So I did that on Sunday. It was also a ride in remembrance for the founder of that event, Mark Sakowitz, who unfortunately passed due to a heart attack 2 weeks ago. So it was really confronting and really sad, but it was really nice to be out in the trees, remembering my time in Steamboat last year, and not taking for granted the joyful opportunity in life that we have, because as we all know, it is short, and we need to make the most of it. So whilst it was sad, it was also nice to do that in remembrance and get out and enjoy the trees a little bit. What about yourself?
I've been super busy. I've not been at work. Yay for me. Week off. So I have been out on the paddleboard, a lot of time on the Peloton, out sailing a lot, had 2 races and a good leisure day out. So lots of just time outside, enjoying the weather. Very small company, but great company. Safe.
Yeah. Well said. Amazing. I am jealous of some of your adventures. I follow you on Strava. I see some of the beautiful pictures you post. And if anyone else, while we're talking about Strava, it actually is a really great place to connect with not only the team behind Training Tuesdays, but other folks from the Dempsey Challenge and the community from around the world. So I just posted a link. If anyone's not already in the Strava group, the Strava Club, go ahead and join that. You'll get to see Dr. Sizzle's amazing adventures. You'll get to see some of the other rides and fun activities that all of our other members are doing as well. So let's talk about a little bit of a recap of last week. We talked about some dynamic stretching with Tish before riding and running, about some post-ride recovery stretching. One thing that I want to throw your way, so I mentioned I haven't really been riding that much. The last couple of days, I am so sore in my shoulders, my neck, other parts of my body that I'd totally neglected and forgotten about with all the running I've been doing. Tell me a little bit about that. I know it probably has to do with, not using those muscles as much, but my guess is it's also probably to do with core strength and having a strong base and having a strong foundation for that activity. So maybe you can tell me a little bit more about why I'm so sore after one ride on the weekend.
So, when we get back into riding, a lot of us get tense. It can be nerve-wracking when you're starting out. It can be nerve-wracking at any point. If you're doing a long ride and you haven't done one in a while, if you're starting back out, or if you're just nervous about traffic that you haven't been around for a while. So tend to grip those handlebars pretty tight. And a lot of us can hunch forward and get into this zone where we put a lot of strain and stress on our neck and back muscles. So you're right. Working on your core is something that this is the grounding spot, being really strong in your core, which is everything from your back to your abs to the behind your abs back here. Just to be really strong so that you don't have to put so much stress there. But I think it's also about awareness. We've talked about that a little bit, just kind of noticing that as you're riding, if you see that you're white knuckling a little bit, gripping those handlebars so much that your knuckles are nice and white, that you might want to back off. You might want to just roll your shoulders back here and there, just like have a moment where you feel like, okay, I'm here, I'm grounded. And then sink back into your core. And when we talk about core strength and activating your core, it's not sucking it in, but I love this analogy. It's like bracing as if a toddler is going to run right into you. And you need to be prepared for that toddler to your gut. So you tighten here. You don't suck it in, but you just tighten and brace. Yep. And if you can be aware of that, and then the other areas that you're starting to feel tension as you ride, one of those things we talked about was a body scan every 5-10 minutes as you're riding, just to go from head to toe and say, am I clenching my jaw right now?
Yeah.
Let me open that up. Is my tongue glued to the top of my mouth? Let's relax that a little bit. Let's relax the shoulders. Let the hands go one at a time and then re-grip. And kind of go just head to toe and check in can be really helpful to let you release some of that stress and strain.
Yeah, I love that. Maybe we need to have you record that so that we can just throw it in our ear, so it's a reminder every 5 minutes. Or even I've actually seen, and this has actually worked in the past, is messages on your handlebars or on your headstem or somewhere where you see it. When you look down, it might be just breathe or relax tension or like something like that, a little bit of a reminder or mantra that actually helps you recognize in the moment, I think is super helpful.
I have the very famous Jens Voigt quote that says, "Shut up, legs."
Yeah.
Bike.
I like that one too. That one could be useful at many times. I've actually started using one recently that I started when I was doing a run challenge in July was, I'm great, I'm strong. So any moment I felt tension, so I'm going up a hill or I'm feeling like I'm pushing into a headwind or I'm starting to feel tired or what have you, just those moments of negative thoughts coming into your mind, because they will come. No one's immune to those thoughts. The goal is to get them in and out as quick as possible. But thinking about a positive, a message that you can say out loud, because when you speak it out loud, it becomes true. It gives it power. And also the same is for negative. So as soon as you start to say, this is hard, I'm tired, I'm sore, etc., it becomes true. So always try and flip that into a positive. And mine is, I'm great, I'm strong. And it actually worked for me on the weekend. I felt great when those negative thoughts came in.
I think that's a great mantra. There's a lot of positivity that you can inject, even thinking, I don't have to do this. I get to do this. Yep. This is a gift. This is a gift that I get to be out here on this bike, feel the wind in my face.
Yeah.
Or running or paddleboarding or sailing or whatever you're doing. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, gratitude is great as well. I think it's a really good reminder. I think especially in that community, in our community as well, because we know that a lot of people are doing the Dempsey Challenge or involved in the Dempsey Challenge to remember or to honor or to stand in solidarity around someone they love or themselves, in particular around cancer. And I think that I've been remiss to ask you about your beautiful face paint that you have there. And I think this is what better time than to share that story, with the listeners have been interested to know more. So maybe you can share that story of how that came about.
Sure. As I mentioned, I think in my introduction about 5 years ago when I started with the Dempsey Challenge, my mom was diagnosed in August, probably right around this time actually, with stage 4 lung cancer. And something about that moment made me decide that I should just start wearing what I call war paint. This is my war paint, and I wear it for my mom specifically, but I really wear it because we're all fighting challenges, unseen challenges, things people don't know about. And I haven't missed a day in 5 years. I've worn a different kind of face paint on various levels, whether it's my full face or just the corner of my eye. My kids in the pediatric ER love it. Their parents love it. But I I haven't been willing to stop, and I probably won't.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think it's such a great message. It's obviously a great talking point. It engages people in the story, and I think it obviously, as you alluded to, we're all in this war, but it doesn't have to be a battle. It can just be something that is something that we stand up and fight against every day. So love that. Now, tell me about that journey for you. 5 years ago, you started the Dempsey Challenge. You've learned so much along the way. There's probably people in your position or in a similar position where maybe they're getting started, they're getting back on their bike. It is intimidating sometimes. So I know we wanted to talk about bike safety and maintenance and some of those things that aren't always easy to find out or often talked about. So maybe you can give us some advice on some of those really important aspects of getting out on your bike and staying safe.
Yeah, so I think, it can be very intimidating to go out, especially on a road bike. There's a lot out there that can cause threats. And so let's talk first a little bit about traffic. There are a lot of distracted drivers out there, but we all know that, there are rules of the road that we're all supposed to be following. And in general, in Maine, and in parts of Mass and other places that I've ridden, I found that people are very respectful of road bikers. So you are part of traffic, so you need to be riding on the same side of the road as the traffic is moving. If you're walking or running, you go opposite the traffic because you're not in a vehicle. So I think the easiest way is just to remember you are a vehicle when you're on a bike. So that means you need to obey all of the same vehicular laws that the cars do. So if there's a stop sign, you have to stop. If there's a stoplight, you have to stop. You don't get to go through the stoplight. And then I think we can go over some signals. Hand signals, I think, are really important and really nice to learn. This is kind of, when cars didn't have blinkers, they had to use a hand signal, and we've all had to learn how to do that on the bike because we don't have a blinker or any other way to signal what we're doing. So if you're going to make a left-hand turn, you use your car side hand to make the signals, although there's a little bit of variation. So left-hand turn, you're going to put your arm out, left arm to the left. If you're making a right-hand turn, the classic, sorry, I got to move into the camera. Classic to do this, although I do see a lot of bikers using their right hand to signal a right-hand turn, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think the classic is to do like a right angle with your left arm.
Yep.
And then stopping is right angle to the ground. That's to say I'm slowing down. And I also like to signal, sorry, I'm not quite in the camera, but.
You know what? I'm going to take myself off here so you can have the full screen. Give me one moment here.
Okay. So it's also really nice if you can signal to other riders that there's stuff that they need to watch out for. So I often, if there's a runner ahead of me or someone that we're going to pass, I will make a signal like we need to kind of get out of the way of this person. And then if there's debris on the road, a lot of us will do something like this with our hand just to say there's some gravel here, or there's a pothole, or there's something to watch out for.
Yeah, they're great signals. The other thing that I maybe we'll do those one more time briefly, but one thing that I also like to think about is if you're riding with other people, and it's less so now given social distancing requirements and safety with COVID, is also using your voice. So being able to articulate those turns and that debris and any of those things that you come up on, because whilst those hand signals are perfect, you're indicating to traffic. Sometimes the people you're riding with may not see them, may be obstructed, maybe not paying attention as well as they should. So it's really important also to call out, left turn, right turn, stopping, pothole, runner up, car up, things like that. Just communicating with the rest of the group. So maybe we'll just run through those hand signals quickly one more time. I'll put you back on the full screen here.
Sure, and I'll add your cues too, because I think they're really important. So if you're going to make a left-hand turn, you're going to put your left hand out to the side. If you're making a right-hand turn, it's a nice right angle with your left hand, or it's the right hand out to the side. I just tend to do the older method because that's on the side of the cars. If you're going to stop, it's like this. even if you're slowing down, sometimes I'll do this where I just kind of push back a little bit and say I'm kind of slowing down. If there's a runner, I will say we're going to be moving over or look out, and we would say runner up, meaning there's a runner ahead of us, or a rider ahead of us. If you're at the back of the line, like Travis was mentioning, and there's a car coming behind, you are the first person to hear it. So it's probably best for you to say car behind. And if you're in the front and you see a car coming forward, you could, or you're about to be next to a car, you can say car up.
Yeah, really good. The other thing to note there as well, Sizzle, is I think that really the goal of riding your bike is to get home safely. So whilst you may be doing everything correctly and in your power to take care of yourself, you can't control what's happening around you. So being very, I like to think about being a defensive rider or an aware rider is really important. So knowing that even if you have right of way and there's a car coming out to make a turn, or someone's coming out of a driveway or backing around or opening their car door, these are things that you as the cyclist have the responsibility to be aware of. Even if the driver is in the wrong, you're the one that's going to end up on the other end of being injured or worse if you're not paying attention. So just being aware of things like that, where cars are going to, let's just assume that cars are not going to see you. Yep. Cars are not going to stop when they need to pull out and make a right-hand turn. They're not going to see you when you're going through and stopping at a stop sign, or any moment that you have control over how you can approach an intersection as a cyclist is of the utmost importance that you're the one, once again, to reiterate, that's in control of what you're doing and what you're seeing. So,
yeah, I totally agree. I think being conservative is best. And especially as a new rider, there are a lot of things that you have to think about on the bike, things that you want to go out and practice. We were talking last week about how you access your water bottle, but it's also about how do you clip out of your pedal if you're going to take a stop and stand for a second, and how confident are you doing that? And then thinking about the approach. So, you know, I've been in situations where I'm approaching a stoplight, but it's on an uphill. That's a real challenge to get out of your pedal, clip out, and then get started again.
Yeah.
And so just practicing those things so that you're comfortable in the moment. And then thinking ahead and thinking, okay, I'm approaching this. There's a lot of traffic here. I might just want to slow down for a second. And actually, instead of staying on my bike, I might just take a break here, take an extra few seconds before I proceed to make sure that everything's safe.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not in a race. And as I say, the most important thing is let's go home safely. Another thing that we can think about, we talked about it last week, you know, practicing grabbing for your water bottle, but also practicing those hand signals as well. So find a grassy patch, find somewhere where if for some reason you happen to take a tumble, gripping in and out of your pedals, as you mentioned, practice all those things on the grass so it's not an impact. But sometimes it is uncomfortable when you're first starting to take your hands off the handlebars, even if it's just one hand there. So you want to make sure that you feel comfortable and practice those things before you get out into real life traffic as well. So that would be important to note. One other thing is that I see all the time is people not wearing a helmet or putting their helmet on the handlebars and riding along. And I am someone who believes wholeheartedly on wearing a helmet at any time, even if you're on your beach cruiser, even if you're just going down to get a pint of milk, even if you think that there's no possible way that you could ever need your helmet. Right. No. Always wear a helmet. Can you tell us a little bit more about what to look for when you are purchasing a helmet, and perhaps reiterate my point that always?
Yeah. Well, you know, I'm a pediatrician in an ER, so my biggest point to my kids who get into bike accidents, and whether they come in with road rash or broken bone or bruising or a head injury, is I can help you with broken bones on your body, but if you hurt the inside of your head, there's not much I can do.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm a real believer in helmet all the time. So I brought mine out just to show you a couple of features. So I have this is a Smith helmet. you have to figure out what size you're going to be in. There's a lot of size guides. If you can't get in person to somewhere like LL Bean or another bike retailer that can fit you, which is the ideal scenario. So somewhere like Allspeed, where you can go in and just have someone fit it to your head. But there's lots of guides, so they often have you measure your head. There's adjustments that you can make in the straps that go under your chin, and you should always check these when you put on your helmet. And then one feature I really like is this back strap that can tighten or loosen depending on how you turn this crank. So every time I put this on, I retighten the back, and then I give it a little jiggle on the head to make sure that it feels really secure.
Yeah.
Because if I fall off my bike, I want to make sure that my head is okay. The rest of me I can fix, just like I said, but head injuries can be really significant, and this can save your life.
Yeah. And it has for many people. So always wear your helmet. One thing to note as well there, Sizzle, is just in regards to the strap. Sometimes I see new cyclists where they'll fit the helmet, but the strap is so tight they can barely breathe. So that's where you showed that dial part. That's really what you want to have snug around your head. So that's the part that shouldn't move. You shouldn't be able to lift your helmet up and down. It shouldn't be able to shake side to side. It should be really snug around your head. And then the strap you can have a little bit. I usually think about maybe 2 fingers worth of space there so you can breathe. It's not tight around there, restrictive. But the most important point is it stays on your head at all times. So it's stiff and it's snug on your head there. So that's something else to keep in mind there. You don't want to necessarily restrict your breathing.
Right.
Talk to us about sunglasses. I know some people love them, some people don't. Tell me about your personal preference around wearing sunglasses when you're out on the road.
Sure. So I have these on my head, but that's not what I wear. I like to have sunglasses that have interchangeable lenses. I'm a big fan of having some kind of eye protection, partly because you're at speed, so the wind in your eyes can make you squint quite a bit, and as can the sun. And if you're not able to see ahead of you, you're not going to be an effective rider. You're not going to be a safe rider. So I would recommend getting something that has interchangeable lenses. So this is just a model. It makes me look like a robot, but it's kind of cool.
They look good.
You can click out the lens and change it for something that's ready for low light. You can have a clear lens in there just for night riding or evening riding. Different lens, just like ski goggles, they can change for the type of light that you're in. And I think in terms of, debris on the road, or just like I was talking about, the wind can really make you kind of squint and not allow you to see fully. So I think it's really important to have something that you wear that's comfortable. There are helmets that come with a visor as an option, but I like to make sure that I'm going to have a good fit between my helmet and my goggles or my glasses, which these fit really nicely. There's not a lot of gap here. It just makes me feel more comfortable.
Yeah, well said. I think one thing that you're right, interchangeable lenses, or if you can find, if you can't find a model that fits that, thinking about different colors for different lenses for different lighting conditions. I think you're right. Sometimes, low light or changing light or rain or different things. If you can't see obstacles coming up, or if you can't see the holes in the road or things like that, then you just need to consider your choices there as well. And obviously the things we're talking about, so we're talking about purchasing helmets, we're talking about different lenses, we're talking about many things that sometimes the sport can be cost prohibitive, but it's not about necessarily having the best equipment. It's not necessarily having the most expensive things. It's functional and it's things that work for you. So don't feel like you have to go and buy the most expensive products. Find things that fit well and work well.
I totally agree with that. And then I think we started to talk about when you head out on a ride, the weather around here can change pretty quickly. And so it's often better to start slightly cooler and then build up, knowing that your metabolism, your heart rate, and the exercise is going to warm you up. I was just thinking about goggle fogging because you just get hot. And so if you're too hot, you will oversteam and block your lenses anyway.
Yeah.
So just thinking about the gear that you're wearing when you go out, it's a little better to start a little cool and work to a point that's more comfortable. It's hard when you're on a bike. It's definitely a challenge. If you have layers, you don't really have a great place to put them. Unless you have panniers on your bike, which a lot of us don't, it's hard to ditch a jacket in the middle of a ride. So it's better to start with a, slightly cool.
Yeah. Yeah, great advice. I always, pretty much in all conditions, always pack a really light, packable extra layer. So whether it's a vest or whether it's a light jacket, pretty much, except for maybe the hottest summer days, I'm always notorious for having that, just because you just don't know what's going to happen. You might have an extended stop at the coffee shop, or you might be waiting for a friend who's changing a tire and things like that. So you want to have a little extra layer as well, just to be safe. Now, there's a lot of things we can talk about in regards to bike maintenance and changing your own tires and things like that. I think that would be a whole nother episode, but maybe you can give us some advice on what are the simplest things that you can do to do a bike check before you start riding, and maybe even a weekly kind of check on making sure everything's running smoothly and working in the way that you would like it to work safely.
Sure. So just a couple really simple things. Every time I go out on the bike, I adjust the tire pressure. So that means to add pressure to whatever the PSI is that's recommended for your tires. It's often somewhere 100 to 120, maybe more, but just look at the tire or talk to your bike mechanic about where it should be. And make sure that you're totally at that level when you start. If you start low, you're more susceptible to flats and problems on the road. In terms of your bike, so if you are going through some gravel or dirt road, I happen to live in a dirt road here, so the end of all my bike rides is, 3/4 of a mile of dirt. So I have to be really aware of what gets into the gears, gets into the derailleur, which is, how we change gears, and be aware that, I know how to clean the chain and then apply some lubricant, which are all really good things that are very easy to teach, or they're really easy for, say, a bike shop to do pretty quickly if you need to do a quick tune-up. Testing your brakes is always really important. I like to go out on rides where I just kind of flick through all the gears and make sure that everything is working properly. A lot of bikes have two different gear settings, essentially, where you're either in the big ring or you're in the little ring, making it easier or harder. And being comfortable changing between all of those is really important, especially if you're going to be approaching hills. You want to be able to go down to easy gears so that you can get up that hill. And so just going out and making sure that all that stuff is functioning well and not having no other agenda is a great ride to do any day of the week.
Yep. Well said. And I think there's a lot of information. There's a lot to know and to learn. And I'm gonna throw another link in the comments here for anyone who does have questions for Dr. Sizzle or for any of our experts around anything that we have covered or will cover. Please go there, throw your comment or your question in there, and we will cover it either in the moment in the club, or we can also bring it to the following week's episode and catch up on that as well. So, Dr. Sizzle, this has been great. I love jamming on all things with you. I could talk about this stuff all day. There's so much we can share. But I'm very grateful for your expertise, and I'm very, very grateful for you being a part of our Training Tuesdays expert crew. So, any final words?
I mean, I would say this is a great week to go and try all this tune-up stuff, Get your helmet out, make sure it really fits well, get yourself stretched out, and then go out for a ride, try your hand signals, clip in and out of your pedals, practice with that water bottle, practice just, clicking through your gears, make sure everything is working, and get a tune-up if you need to. This is a really good time to go get a tune-up.
Yeah, perfect time. Find a local mechanic, find a local supporter who can help you with that. And also, perhaps do some research. There's lots of YouTube videos that show you how to do basic maintenance and take care of your equipment. So it's always good to upskill so you know that what you're asking at the bike shop is relevant. So I'm going to also post a link here that does have all of the Training Tuesdays information. So we have the training plans, we have past episodes, we have a bunch of information there as well. So please go ahead, if you're watching live or if you're watching the recording back, you can head over to our website, the Dempsey Challenge website, and find the Training Tuesdays information. Sizzle, so great to have you here. We will see you in a couple of weeks. So enjoy your time, and we'll catch up in a couple of weeks here.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Of course, my pleasure. There we go. Thank you so much, Dr. Sizzle, for joining us. Great episode. I'm excited about these Training Tuesdays as we get closer and closer to the challenge. Once again, if you have questions, thoughts, or comments, head over to the Strava Club. You can join there. You can throw your questions to our experts. And please stay tuned every Tuesday at noon when we bring a new Training Tuesdays episode to you. So have a great week. All the best. Thank you for being here. Bye for now.